Has someone ever shown you an amazing app that you immediately wanted or believed would help you do actual work, only to find out it costs $2 and refuse to buy it? Sure, no one likes paying for things, but we understand things cost money. We pay for food, clothing, even ridiculous coffee. So why don't we pay for apps? Maybe it's because what something costs and what we think it's worth are two very different things. The reality is, in order for something to be made, someone has to do the work. And in order for work to be done, the person doing it needs to get paid to support themselves or their family. If people won't buy a thing with actual money, revenue has to be made somewhere else. Nothing is free, so if you don't pay money, you'll either be subjected to advertising, giving your information, or asked to pay a tiny amount of money every month. See subscriptions. No one is giving out free macchiatos, so we pay for those, but there are thousands of free apps that are okay, so we'd rather watch a banner ad than pay $5 for a better one. The problem is, we begin to reason that all apps should be free, and if an app costs even $1, it seems like a personal affront to our constitutional right to apps. To use a similar example, let's look at the music industry. Before the iPod, music was bought mainly as physical media. If you wanted a song on a particular album, you bought the whole album for $20 on a compact disc, like an animal. Even with the introduction of the iPod in 2001, buying music on CD and ripping it was common practice. In the early 2000s, stealing music was also common because, hey, that's free. Then came the iTunes Store and the option to buy a song for 99 cents. Artists had no choice but to comply if they wanted to sell anything, and we never went back to paying $20 for a full album. After 2010, we saw smartphones and LTE cellular data rise to ubiquity, and with it came the ability to stream music. Enter Spotify, Pandora, and even the iTunes-owning juggernaut, Apple, had to get into streaming music. The idea of paying $10 a month for all the music you could ever want, even if it's at the expense of artists and album sales, was too strong to resist, even for Taylor Swift. So we went from paying $20 for a physical CD to $10 an album on iTunes to $10 a month for all the music ever. The desire to pay the least amount possible for the most content won the music industry. So what about software? Well, back in the 90s, programs for your computer used to cost $50 or more, sat on a shelf, and came in a largely empty cardboard box. Not only that, but you had to closely pay attention to the system requirements on the bottom. That software went from cardboard boxes to online downloads, but were still just as costly. That is until 2007 when the iPhone arrived. A year later, the App Store launched, and the idea of purchasing software went into disarray. In the early stages of app stores, smartphones lacked many of the abilities they have today. Apps could only offer basic functionality, and mobile devices had limited CPU power and data speeds. With those limitations, apps only cost a few dollars because they didn't do a whole lot. Apps that broke the trend of mediocrity, see Angry Birds, were hugely popular, and even that was free, with ads of course. But wimpy apps are no longer the case. Larger screens, faster data, more horsepower, and new technologies like location, motion, NFC means that smartphone apps can be just as powerful, if not more so, than desktop apps. So here's the problem. As apps have become more complex, more powerful, and take more time and people to build, the perception of their value has stayed in 2007. We download apps the same way today as we did 8 years ago, so why should they cost any different? If history has taught us anything, once people can pay the least amount possible and get what they want, there's little you can do to change that. Plus, there are still thousands of free apps in every app store, and if the choice is pay $5 for a great app or get a pretty good app for free, free always wins. Extrapolate that out, and we either end up with every app being free and mediocre, or every app has a pop-up ad every time you tap on it. Developers, the people who make apps, will be less and less motivated to spend time and effort in making amazing apps if they know no one will pay for them, or they have to make the user experience terrible with ads. So the next time you hear about a great app and it costs actual money, pay the $5 or $10 or even more. Great products require great effort, and we should be willing to support those who make great stuff.